Hey YouTube, it is Avis, and I wanted to continue the trend of actually making videos again because it has been an extraordinary amount of time, not 4 years, 2 years, but whatever. And I wanted to show you what I'm reading. So for quite a while, my desire to read anything academic was hindered by my disenchantment with higher education and academia. I was promised something as a young adolescent and I went for it and I took on a fuck ton of debt and it got me this YouTube channel. But other than that, it really didn't get me much. And so I got really burned out on academia for quite a while. But in an effort to sort of wake up, to reawaken my interest in things that I once felt incredibly passionate about, I decided I would give it another shot. One of the things that I have turned to is a website that I used thoroughly in my college years called jstore.org. And basically it's an online encyclopedia or an online library of scholarly articles. I chose JSTOR because, again, I'm aware of and I know how to navigate academic vernacular. Through my education, I became very familiarized with like how papers are written and how to skim them for the necessary details, when to actually dig in and stuff like that. And you can basically type in any subject and find a scholarly article about it. Does that mean that they are easy to read? No, it doesn't. But sometimes you can find things that are accessible, easy to understand. Yeah. And it's really just an incredible resource, and you can actually access it for free now because I feel like, why does this sound like this video is sponsored by JSTOR? It's not. Anyways, you can create a free account. You can't download anything or print anything off, but you can still read it on the screen. And so I've just basically been doing that in my downtime at work. Whenever I don't have anything else to do, I'll get on JSTOR and yes, I'll look up topics relevant to my work first, but my job is not on JSTOR at all. So once that's done and I have nothing else to do, I'll look up articles about paganism or esotericism or magic, the occult, contemporary New Age spiritualities, things like that. And so I wanted to show you that. I've been reading about elves and fairies. Yeah, that's my aesthetic. Basically, actually, hold on, we're gonna backtrack before I talk nerdy to you. I did get a copy of Rebel Witch by Kellyanne Maddox, and it's pretty good. I'm enjoying reading it. She even states in the beginning that you can navigate this book however you want. You can jump around different chapters, use it as you see fit. And some of the chapters in the beginning are really insightful, and I did the exercises, and I really enjoyed the exercise of just examining my life, examining my personal and past experiences, and figuring out how I came to be where I am today. However, there are some chapters that I don't need to read. As a gay man, I don't need to read a chapter about navigating your way in or out of a closet, about announcing if you are in fact a rebel witch. So I just kind of gloss over that. But I would like to go over this book in more detail in future videos, but the crux of this is, the reason why I'm bringing this up is because Kellyanne is basically saying you can cultivate your own path, your own identity, your own spiritual identity in such a way that you draw from all of the personal experiences and all of the personal aesthetic principles that you hold near and dear to create a more authentic spiritual path. And I think that's fantastic. Chef's kiss. To take it to an extreme, I don't really identify as a witch. Future video, just rife with potential future content. I don't identify as a witch. At best, I identify as pagan. But one thing that I do sort of in this kind of embarrassing but also still totally authentic way is I identify, again, not like credulously, not in a legal sort of way, but one of the aesthetics that I maintain in the back of my head is I like the Fae, I like elves, I like fairies, fairy tales, fairy stories, fables, folklore. I enjoy ideas from a place that intersects humanity but is not human. And just to allow me this one tangent very quickly, I enjoy the aesthetic of witchcraft, but I feel like it's in fact a intrinsically gendered term. Not that I'm opposed to taking on a mantle or a title or identifying in some way with anything that is feminine, because guys, I'm pretty femme. But I feel like there's a lot of respect that I need to pay towards the archetype of the witch. A way to sort of brush shoulders with that is turning this book on its head and being Rebel Fae. So, the reason for this video is I have been reading about elves, fae, folklore, of all of that. I mean, as I said in my previous video, I am a diehard fan of Changeling the Lost, which is literally a board game about nothing but fae archetypes. And yeah, so I decided to take this experiment of basically rebuilding my spirituality from the ground up, and instead of focusing on witchcraft, focusing on fae, fairy, elven lore. So what have I been reading? This incredibly long 6-minute preamble into what I'm reading. I found on JSTOR, Fairies and Elves in Tolkien and Traditional Literature by Helios de Rosario Martinez. He is like an incredibly brilliant, intelligent biochemistry engineer, something or other from Spain. But anyways, he's a huge fan of Tolkien. And there is this really neat intersection between like pop culture and spirituality. I have touched on it in previous videos. Theodore Roszak, a postmodern philosopher in the 60s, 70s, touched on how idolatry is not necessarily bowing down to like the figure on your altar. The figure itself is a window through which you can see the divine, you can see whatever spiritual concept you're trying to connect with. I feel like this article is really a great primer for beginning to academically and critically unpack the ideas of fae and elves and all this other stuff that is the primary root of all of the literature that we engage with whenever we see an elf or a fairy or something like that in popular media. Knowing the origins of what you are talking about helps you think about it more critically and more rationally. Not even rationally, but just more appropriately and respectfully. And if the Fae demand anything, it is respect, right? So, but yeah, this article talks about the etymology of Fae and enchantment and elves and lots of really neat stuff. I'll probably make a video about this article specifically because you can go download it, print it out on a different website than JSTOR for free. You won't break any laws, and we can like discuss this in its entirety, critically, like scrutinize every chapter or something like that. I think that would be a really great video or videos to make, and we can engage with it and talk about it. And of course, because it's Tolkien, I've also been reading Tolkien's essay, and now I can't think of it. I've also been reading Tolkien's essay on fairy stories. Tolkien is a snob, but it's not unfounded elitism. Like, he literally wrote the books on fairy stories. Like, it's not a euphemism, it's not an exaggeration. He wrote the fucking Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit he is the fantasy guy. So I've been reading his article, and it's really insightful, it's really brilliant, it's incredibly wordy, but that's Tolkien. And I've been drawing a lot of really insightful things out of this essay. It's about 40 pages long, but it's worth the read. I really do recommend it because it is academically dense, but he discusses it in such a way that it's interesting and it's fresh and it's conversational. It's not a textbook. It's like you're listening to someone give a lecture, and it's a lecture about fairy tales and enchantment and fairies. So why would you not, right? This is absolutely available for free online. Just Google Tolkien on Fairy Stories PDF and you can find a place to download that. And then, because I don't have a printer, because I'm a broke millennial, I have absolutely printed those things out at work. I've also been reading a article called The Elf Church, Memories of Contested Sacred Spaces by, who is this by? Eric Shane Bryan, and it is about Icelandic belief in elves. Very interesting topic, and it's not like, oh yes, the twee fae that live in the daffodil buttercups and harvest dewdrops. Like, no, the elves in Iceland, like, you build roads around their settlements, and they believe that, literally. So, lots of really incredible historical work that I do not know how to approach history or historical studies. I was trained in philosophy, so it's relevant, but it's also different, and so I'm playing catch up. And then, just because I'm a sucker for fiction, Essential Salts, Lovecraft's Witchcraft. H.P. Lovecraft, that's a mess, but it's fun to read and it's fun to read about. So I've been kind of digging into that just as a way to kind of wake up those mental muscles and get back into how I engage critically, or how I want to critically engage with spirituality. For me, spirituality is something that should be just personal, something that you just enjoy and feel, but I can't do that. Maybe it's because I'm a Taurus, Aries, something else sign, but I have to critically analyze and justify all of the things that I enjoy. And do I know that that is toxic? Absolutely. Whenever I can justify and explain a belief, it makes me feel more comfortable diving in headfirst and saying, this is something I like, it's something I'm passionate about, it's something that's close to me, so I don't care if you think it's silly. I've done the academic hard work to justify my beliefs. So what I would like to ask you guys is, if any of you are familiar or have experience with academic folklore study, I would love any sort of resource or just standard authority on folklore. I really want to figure out how to navigate this area of study that I really didn't professionally or academically touch on. Any folklore studies that I had in college or post-college, they were sort of from the ground up. I sort of did it myself and I didn't really know what I was doing. If there are any like professional folklorists or authors or schools of thought that are relevant or pertinent or cogent to folklore, then please drop them in the comments below. I would really appreciate that. I did this entire video in one take. Bam. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it. I am excited to continue this conversation. I would like to make at least one video a week. No promises, but if not once a week, then maybe once every 2 weeks. So thank you guys so much for watching, and until I can come up with a better sign off, merry meet, merry part, and merry meet again.